Seeing none, our next item on the agenda is FOIA requests. We have none to be brought before this board tonight. So we're going to move on to our next part of the agenda, which is visitor statements. This is where we allow you, the first part of our meeting, to discuss or be able to provide any feedback or talk that you want to give. So I'm going to start on this side. Anybody wants to speak on this side? All right, seeing none. Anybody else wants to speak on this side? All right, I'll take the front.
Should I sit up?
You're going to sit up there.
Okay.
Please state your name and the town that you live in.
Hi, I'm Alice Clavin from Riverside. And I'm going to start out with a really positive note that congratulations to RB teachers and staff for placing 9th in Illinois in state in the Newsweek study. And I'd like to give some really good feedback on my daughter who graduated from RB. She started last fall at U of I as a freshman, but she was automatically considered a sophomore because of all her AP classes from RB and all her great grades. So as a sophomore standing, she registered for Calc 3, which I thought was kind of crazy. But her Calc teacher was Mr. Porter here, and he taught BC Calc, and he was amazing. And she said she could understand Calc with him. So she took Calc 3 as a freshman at U of I, and she passed with an A. And she was in a class with juniors and seniors. So I'm amazed at all the great teachers and staff at RB, and that's obviously one reason you place so well on things. And then I have a lot of sympathy for the board. I understand you have to cut so many things. And I'm very sad. I'm very sad at the assistant coaches being cut. And I know how hard it is for the athletic department, but I would like to say I would like the athletic board to reconsider cutting the boys and girls cross-country coaches, the assistant coaches, because those teams are huge. The boys cross-country team has over 100 kids. The girls too. They just have huge amount of runners, and I don't see how one coach can cover that many kids. And the reason I say this is I've gone to meets, and at the meets they're in a huge forest preserve. The kids run over 3 miles for the race. There's a coach at one point at the start and at the end of the race, and they just need at least 2 people to cover it. And the thing is, there's lots of accidents and injuries. Last time I was at a meet in Elmwood Park, or I went to so many meets, there Forest Preserve, and there was a diabetic boy on the boys cross-country team that did not have enough insulin that day. He had to get carted off, and I thought that was a terrible injury. But then the next thing I know, I see a girl being held by 2 of the teammates helping her. And I just think with injuries and things that happen, you will need 2 coaches. Cross-country is one of the least expensive sports. They ask for no equipment at all. The kids just bring their shoes. They have 1 tent, and I'm very proud of the boys cross-country team here. They are such a class act. They have 1 tent, and when it rains and storms, the boys let the girls go under the tent, and the boys just huddle around, go somewhere else. And it's amazing to me. I haven't gone to boosters and asked for an extra 10 or anything. And the kids, they don't ask for anything. They just run, and then they place in state. They're incredible. Both teams have gone to state for the past couple years. And at the last year, the girls placed 20th in Illinois, which is amazing to me. They went downstate. And then secondly, like Otto came out to one meet, it was in Countryside, and he saw both the girls team and the boys team win regionals. But I just worry about them because if there's something that would have to happen, I just think for the safety, and I think the school would want to have another coach. And I think they can be very proud of all their accomplishments, and maybe they ought to reconsider that. So that was one of my thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on that side? Please step up. Please state your name and the town you're from.
Good evening, Board. I'm Olga Angelis from Brookfield. I want to start by thanking the Board for coming up with a program for outside funding for co-curricular programs. A lot of questions came up as I was reading through this. I have one question for the Board. I know that you've outlined here individuals interested in providing funding for an eliminated club/organization must contact the Assistant Principal of Student Affairs for an appointment. Am I correct in assuming that when I meet with the Principal of Student Affairs, you would have answers to questions like who the designated donor representative would be and the designated representative for that organization? Now, in the past, there's been a teacher that acts as the coach, one or two teachers. They get a stipend. I understand that we have to maintain a teacher in that position. I don't know if the stipends are negotiable or not. I don't know if that teacher can also be the designated representative, or are these questions the assistant principal would be able to answer for me? Or will there be a liaison from the Board working along with the community on this?
Right now, looking at the policy, and Pam, you can, I know the team came up with it. You want to answer that and just be able to talk about?
Well, the designated donor representative means the outside funder. That's the person who's making the donation, who'd be coordinating with the school. So, but I think that's if this policy is accepted by the Board, that's who that person is. So the way it's stated in the proposal is that the money would have to come forward, but then the school would have to secure the sponsor and the teacher. And yes, the amount that they're paid in a stipend is a part of contractual bargaining agreement. So that amount is set, and then so once the money is secured, then we would have to post, and ask if there is somebody from the collective bargaining unit who will step forward and do that role and sponsor it. Whether it be the former sponsor who, before the club was eliminated, wants to regain that, and if they decide not to, somebody else will take that. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, no, not really, because there was no former sponsor for if there was no. And I would assume that in all cases, there will not have been a former sponsor for the club or organization. There would have been.
Because by sponsor, I think she means that's what they would call the teacher leader.
Teacher.
Teacher, okay. Well, then, yes, that does answer that
It
question.
would have to be someone from the bargaining unit, so that way it wouldn't be in conflict with our bargaining unit. So if a group came to sponsor, for example, a particular club, we would have to find somebody from the bargaining unit to earn that same stipend that they would have got before it was cut. So the designated donor is basically there to cover the stipend of the sponsor, as well as any additional cost that went with that club. And that's what is explained in
Right,
that,
we
in
have
that
a
draft
whole-
of that.
There's a different level of qualification of the alternate sponsor. It's still set at the same stipend regardless, correct? That's
Correct.
what you're saying. Okay.
And the stipend is in a schedule in the contract that's on the business page of the website. So your question about would that fee be negotiable? No, it's contractually set each year for the club. A particular club you're interested in, I believe, is Math Club. So in the contract, there's a math club as part of the schedule of what we pay that, what they're calling the sponsor or the teacher or the person. So that's contractually set. So there is no bargaining for that fee. That's part of the collective bargaining agreement that's currently in place here.
Okay. Well, that does answer my question, and thank you.
Thank you, no problem.
Thanks.
Somebody else in back wanted to speak? Yes, sir, please step up. Please state your name and town you're from.
Good evening. I'm Tony Nye from Riverside. And on the same subject of the co-curriculars and how to finance them, there's an additional thought that I've been discussing with Rosemary Santoro from the Patrons Council, where about the idea of fundraisers to help fund some of the things that have been cut, whether it be a club or in the case that I'm most concerned with, the theater department has been in essence eliminated, which is something that I think is important for any school system to have, if we can possibly manage it. I'm not blaming anyone. You have had an extremely challenging time trying to juggle finances, but I'm really concerned that there are some people that theater is what they did, and suddenly they don't have a good outlet. Where I'd like to step up to the plate and possibly help is if we could have a fundraiser, and I'm hoping maybe for a grander fundraiser than, just running bake sales and car washes, and that will get us where we need to go, because it's probably quite a substantial figure. But at least with the theater, a certain portion of it had always been covered by ticket prices. So if we can get a certain amount as seed money, I'm hoping that even this year, we can possibly have some theater or musical experiences that have needed to be cut because of finances. And what I was hoping is if there was a way to fit some time into the school calendar, and and also maybe possible use of the school facilities. What my school had done in Iowa, so I'm talking from ancient history here, we used to have a fundraiser, but they would actually raise money for just these sorts of things, usually in the fall, normally the end of October, which gave people time enough to get back to school, talk to friends, get organized. And it was generally a student-run activity with adult supervision. So what your part might be, Patrons Council says they would have no trouble doing a fundraiser under their umbrella. But we would need to make sure that it fits into the categories of what the school board and the school can allow. And we would like to have all the arts involved if possible. There might be a sale of art from students who take art at the school. There might be, a variation on the bake sale, but food would be sold at the same time. There could be what we would ideally like to do, and we'll see if it can be feasible depending on what the discussion ends up bringing from your end as well. Say a 2-evening event where we might try to really push and sell tickets for hopefully a very high-class show, kind of like the theater shows, but it would be an enhanced version of a variety show that was written together again by students. Now, a large portion of this could be outside of the school. In other words, we wouldn't need like a fall play to have rehearsals every night at the school. That's not what the vision would be. A lot of it would be done on the students' own time with whatever mentors they would need outside the school. But we would need to make this work at least several nights to pull it together before you actually put it on stage where you're working at it in the school facilities, and we would obviously need the lights and the power and the lights and the sound crew and all this sort of thing. So it would kind of be everyone working together to hopefully creatively solve a problem where we can't make money grow on trees, but we can work for it. And I'm hoping that by proposing to work together, and if it's a success, I feel what I found was it was a very strong learning experience for me when I did it, because having to make the decisions, making sure the acts work together, solving ego issues, working, is a fabulous experience for any student. And it just needs the right amount of adult supervision to make sure that you can help them through. So whether we would need a sponsor at the school for part of it, and I don't think it's been done before in this way, so it might be something that has to be revisited, I'm not sure. But I would be very much happy to, under the umbrella of the Patrons Council, be part of the process to make things better.
Can I ask a couple clarifications?
You absolutely can, because I may have totally missed entire points of it.
So you're trying to get an idea to raise money.
Well, we have the idea to raise money, but it's obviously a complicated idea that
Through a
has many
potential
levels.
variety show
Exactly,
or sale of art or sale of food.
exactly.
And then when you raise that amount of money, what activity would then?
It would be earmarked
Earmarked
for the fine arts here at RB. Hopefully, possibly a spring musical, maybe some kind of additional show would be going on. Well, there's some things could be added, but it would definitely be earmarked for the fine arts that help support it, would be the vision. So in other words, even if all the money, for example, wasn't spent in 1 year, there would be again, this is on ancient history, and I don't know if it's even possible based on, the realities of today. There was a fund. It was a rolling fund. It went from year to year. If there was ever any money left, it was the seed money for the additional year, but it was always earmarked for the music department, theater department, it couldn't be used to pay for toilet paper in the restrooms. It had to be, for fine arts. And whether that be used to pay a stipend, I mean, obviously, depending on how much money was raised, it would have to be used very wisely. But, and the things it might fund might have to be tailored toward how much money was raised.
Okay.
I think that one thing, if there's a stipend involved, and contractually, as Mike has stated before, there's no negotiation, it has to be what's in the contract.
Absolutely.
What I would recommend for you to do is to be able to figure out what your goals are going to be or what your fundraising needs are going to be, is to have a meeting with the assistant principal and say, if we wanted to do, bring back the spring musical, what will we be talking about funding-wise of stipend? Am I right, Pam? Would you?
That's a pretty significant amount, if I'm not mistaken.
20,000 plus.
Yeah.
I mean,
But at least
the
you'll have
stipends
they'll have a
alone, not even really.
value.
It's like a $30,000
Yeah.
event.
So at least you'll have a value of what would be needed that we had targeted budget for.
Exactly. And what my vision, part of where it was is even for the fundraiser using the school's facilities, what would need to be involved? And if it's possible, and would we need a sponsor for even having a fundraiser? I'm not sure.
I don't think you need a sponsor as much as you need some administrative supervision.
Right, and how to get that and how to make it work.
That's something I think, meeting with the principal and/or the superintendent, we could probably work with you on that.
I'd be happy to talk with both of you.
So basically, you have to present a business plan, a proposal.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to mention, because it does tie into your outside funding, so I wasn't sure which banner it needed to be underneath, and it might affect your decisions, because it also then would need to be, if it does raise the money that we would hope, then it would have to be fit into the school calendar as well.
Right. I think a lot of your questions, as well as some of the other audience members' questions, will be answered from some of the discussions that will occur when this agenda item comes up and we begin to discuss questions and management related to the function.
Thank you.
And you'll probably be getting a call to your offices to schedule something. Thank you very much.
Anybody else want to speak in the audience?